Hello, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. I'm Michael Swaim, your kindly guide through the Vale of Tears. Sounds like a Smithereens song. Deep cut. Anyway, this is your content warning, although, as we occasionally do, this episode is a little lighter than our usual fare, and hopefully won't trigger most of you, but I'll be speaking with writer, director, comedian Andy Bush about his struggles with the Hollywood system and eventual decision to give up and leave the Hollywood system. Before we get to the interview proper, which is about 35 minutes in, if you feel like skipping the intro, I've decided to share with you a new short story. I think it's appropriate to the topic of the episode because it deals with screenwriting ambition, our relationship to art, and why we create art, as well as the deterioration of language, miscommunication, and the general trend of things falling apart. So, I hope you enjoy the story, or if not, I'm sure you'll enjoy my conversation with Andy Bush. But first this. Dear Jane. Hyphen. Falling out between Jerry and Sasha could happen anywhere, not just on campus green. Brainstorm alternate settings. Something meaningful, not just a twist. Hyphen. In general, look for settings or action that illuminate relationship. See the screenplay as a medium that does this well. Hyphen. Carrie equals too sarcastic? Want to be likable but must stay true to character. Also still needs to incite Jerry's big move. Hyphen. Nature as a source of personal strength. Rivers, woods, mountains. What do they mean? To whom? How to incorporate? Hyphen. Switch lunch scene with park scene. Hyphen. Structure equals parallel narratives? Flashback? Main focus is love story. June 12th. Dear Jane, I've never kept a journal before. Or maybe these are letters. Anyway, they let me keep my notebook. Who are they? And it seems like I've got a lot of free time on my hands. I miss you. They haven't hurt me, so I'm hoping that they're treating you well too. I don't know how long they've been on Earth or what they want with us. I haven't even seen any of them again since I was captured. I was coming down from the peak of Mount Taurus when they found me. It really was beautiful, Jane. The peak was all gray stones and scrub. You could see the Hudson headlands and green trees like broccoli heads crawling up the mountainside across the water. I was smothered in clouds. I felt so inspired. I was scribbling notes for the script like crazy. You would have loved the silence, the look of the river below like a slow-moving snake. It was a hell of a climb in the humidity, but when it was all over, I wanted you there with me more than anything. I wish I could have teleported you up there just for a moment. You would have popped out of existence, leaving some rich gallery patron utterly lost, waiting for the end of one of your rehearsed anecdotes, and appeared up there on the mountain, still splattered in paint and wearing canvas overalls. I should have taken my camera, didn't think of it. I'm sorry I missed your opening, sweetheart. I should have been there. I did what so many people lament and assumed there would be more chances in the future. I'm sorry we fought. It didn't mean anything. I hope you know that. I was just upset about the rejection letter. Maybe even jealous, let's be honest. Here you are opening another big show filled with paintings that make no sense to me, and I can't get anyone to even read my stuff. I shouldn't have taken that out on you, though, and I feel so stupid about it. Your paintings are beautiful, Jane. They aren't gimmicky or vacant or any of those things I shouldn't have said. They took me when I was about a quarter-mile down from the peak, beneath the clouds and the timberline. What's funny is I had considered going off trail, but decided against it. Did they find me because of that? Maybe they would have found me either way, I don't know. They look like underwater light, don't they? I got a good look at one, how to tell how many, really, when they took me, and it made me remember the way I used to float face up at the bottom of my uncle's pool and stare at the sun refracted through the ripples on the surface. They move like that, too, but they have more colors. Purples, gold, green, almost aurora borealis. And changing, as if the frequency of their light is hooked to a radio dial that someone's constantly turning. Maybe that's just the visible spectrum parts of them. I don't even know why I call them, like sentient creatures, except that they seem to be consciously controlling things. Maybe this is a universal phenomenon, or a religious thing, or an acid flashback. Maybe I'm dead. I don't feel dead. I was out, though, cold. This angel of light thing, drifted down through the thick tree branches and just fell through the wood and leaves like rain through a sieve. Hovered there in the middle of the trail, and I felt this electricity in the air. Maybe you felt it, like when you know you're going to get a static shock the next time you touch metal. And I stopped, and I don't know why, but I reached out to it. Like maybe it was a trick of the light, a mobile rainbow or something, and it sent a tendril of light out at me, snapped out, and it knocked me out instantly. No pain or dreams, just crumpled to the ground, except I don't even remember crumpling, I just assume. That's how fast it was, like my brain just turned off, like a light. But I don't feel dead. They brought me back to the city. I don't know exactly where. I'm in a hotel room, but all the furniture's been taken out, so I'm not sure about much of anything. Just an empty box with an imprint on the carpet where the bed and dresser and nightstands used to be, and an empty bathroom without toilet paper or soap or shampoo or anything, and an empty closet. They even took the coat hangers, which must have been tough because it looks like they were the kind that are attached to the rod. The front door is a big metal fire door with the knob missing, and it's rigged shut from the outside somehow. I've rammed into it a dozen times, and all I've got to show for it is a bruise on my left shoulder. I'm a little worried about the bathroom situation, but I haven't had to go yet. The water runs, the lights work. The wallpaper is gray with little pastel flowers that you wouldn't even notice unless you had nothing else to look at. At least they left me my notebook. When I woke up, my backpack and walking stick were gone, but my notebook and pens were still in my vest pocket, in the zippered one. You always told me I was crazy for carrying around so many pens. Maybe somehow I knew something like this would happen. Pocket's tough to find, so I'm not sure if they missed it or just don't care. I can't believe it's that they missed it, after all the powers they seem to have. They've taken over the city, after all, or at least all of it that I can see from my window. The hotel faces an office building with mirrored walls, so I can make out a good portion of the street. Everything's deserted. It's eerie. There are no cars, no people, not even rats or insects or pigeons as far as I can tell. The only signs of life I see are the distorted reflections of other people in the same building as me passing by their windows. I can't figure out why I'm the only one who looks. Everyone else is just a shadow passing by as if by accident, en route to other business. I thought I heard someone moving around in the room above mine, and I yelled and jumped and hit the ceiling like a madman for about 15 minutes, but there was no response, and eventually the sound faded. So is that it? World domination, complete and instant? Maybe there are government troops with light guns somewhere leading a ragtag team of survivors in resistance, but for some reason I find that hard to envision. I wonder if they're going to feed me. I miss you. I'll write again tonight. June 12th. Dear Jane, the room I'm in is about 20 feet by 30 feet, not counting the closet or the bathroom. The bathroom area is about 6 feet by 8 feet. The closet is 6 by 3. The window on the far wall is big, about 6 feet by 10 feet. Outside in the shadowed street, I watch the workers going to and fro. They started in the afternoon, after the sun had set behind my building. They all have the same stupid, vacuous expression on their faces. It's hard to avoid an ant comparison, especially once I saw what they were doing. Dragging anything and everything mechanical back down the street towards pieces of cars, mailboxes, anything metal, it seems. 5 or 6 of them, or as many as it takes, lumber over to it, yank it out of the ground, and go back around the corner of the block. Where the hell are they taking them? What for? I recognize the same people again and again. It's hard to see them from this high up, but there was a woman in a bright red cocktail dress, and she must have come back for pieces of this car's engine a dozen times. She just picked out whatever she could carry, hoses, clamps, I don't know cars, just small bits, and she'd walk around the corner and come back in 15 minutes and take some more. Always wearing that ridiculous dress. They must have captured her when she was at a party. Makes the whole thing seem even more like a dream. There's about 20 of them down there at any one time, all moving at the same agonizingly steady pace. Zombie movies come to mind, but they don't keep their arms up and they don't moan, or at least I can't hear them if they do. The window's open now, so I think I would hear them. I yelled to them for a long time when I first saw them, but it's no use. They're workers with a capital W. They don't even look up. I broke the window. It was rigged so I couldn't open it. There wasn't anything to break it with, so I had to use my arms. That was a bitch. It looks so easy in movies, but of course it's not. It took me about 10 minutes of pounding, and by the time it happened, I was so shocked I damn near fell through it. Cut my arms up pretty badly, and I don't have much to wrap them with other than thin strips of my shirt, but I'm happy to have a breeze and some sound. The silence in the room was starting to get a little too much like my mental image of purgatory. Why so many afterlife references? I guess part of me is still hoping this is going to turn out to be a dream. I'm waiting for the moment when the movie ends and the lights come up, and I turn to you and ask you if you liked it. And we shuffle out of the theater and find our car and go for coffee and sit and talk about how contrived it all was. Every time I see a new worker below, I pray that I won't recognize your face. I don't want to think of you like them. I can't imagine you wandering the city looking for scrap metal. I don't know what I'd do if I saw you. Probably jump out the window. I'm sorry, Jane. I won't do anything stupid. They left me alone, at least for this long, so there's no reason to assume anything yet. I'm going to do something, though, and soon. I'm getting too hungry to keep waiting around. I've been thinking about ways to get out, and if I do, I'm going to find you. I promise. I'm going to find you, and we'll leave the city. Whether you're lobotomized or brainwashed or whatever. I don't care. I've been thinking about when I got my first story published in that school journal. Remember that? I carried my copy around in my backpack all day, and after calculus we were cutting through the woods to go to the dining hall, and you asked me what I looked so damn happy about. I ended up reading it to you while you leaned against a poplar tree. I remember the way you looked against the mottled trunk, so slow and warm, like a black cat sleeping in sunlight. You never seemed to move or even blink. You just stared through me and smiled as I read. If you noticed my voice shaking, you didn't mention it. Instead, I could see something incredible glowing in your eyes as you listened. I realized that you weren't looking at me, you were looking into the story. You were watching everything I read play out in front of you, with that incredible imagination of yours. I could see my story in your eyes more vividly than I'd ever seen it, even while I was writing. What's wrong with them, anyway? Why do this to us? Without any warning or contact? I wonder if they even know how much they're hurting. It all seems so casual. You know what I just realized? The top of the toilet, the heavy ceramic cap at the top. It's unsecured. I could have broken the window with that. June 13th. Dear Jane, I am the proud owner of 2 rooms. I used the top of the toilet to break through the drywall into the next room. The walls are very cheap here, it seems. The toilet cap broke halfway through, but I unscrewed a loose pipe from the back of the toilet to finish the job. Flooded the bathroom, but now I've got 2, so who cares? There's about a 5-foot diameter hole in the wall now, and toilet water continuously falls out of the hole in the window. The best part? My new room is completely furnished. There was even a little fridge with minibar stuff in it. Nuts, little bottles of alcohol, calories at least. I was starving. This all happened in the afternoon, after I decided to escape. I decided to escape because of what happened last night, which I guess I should tell you about first. They came again, I'm sure of it. The big they whom are in control. I was asleep, but I felt them in my head, in my dreams. I'm not sure what happened, what state I was in, but I was aware. It wasn't sleep, but perhaps not waking. I couldn't see anything except the inside of my own head, and they were in there, in all their multicolored splendor. They told me things, not with words, but they twanged and plucked my neurons like meaty guitar strings and showed me what they meant. It was as if I could see them waft through the cavity of my head, find an image, or emotion, or desire, or dream, and set it off. It exploded, and that became my only thought. It filled everything. If one of them accessed the taste of blueberry pancakes, it's like the whole world was made of them and my mouth was stuffed full. But they don't want blueberry pancakes. I'm still not sure what they want. They don't seem benevolent or cruel or forceful or forgiving. They just seem empty. Like something so different there's simply no way for us to understand or communicate. They are alien. An absence, a gap in the spectrum of what we can know or experience. All night, they sent me feelings and pictures. All night, they exploded my thoughts. When I woke up, the big smoke shapes their fireworks left behind were still clouding my mind, drifting out of sight as my own senses puffed at them like the constant breeze from the open window. I was groggy and confused. It took a long time to really wake up. That was last night, and this morning, a mystery. Today, more. I tried to escape like they do from prison, by tying bed sheets together and making a rope to climb down. I'm on the 6th floor, but my new room had a whole stack of linens in the closet, and in about an hour I had a strong rope that I could hang out the window and which reached within 10 feet of the ground. I tied the rope's end to the bed and tossed it out the hole. I took a few minutes to try and prepare, calming myself, getting ready. I won't say I wasn't frightened. It's quite a climb when you're looking straight down at a sheer drop. But just when I was ready, I got this overwhelming feeling of despair. Whenever I even thought about climbing out, I'd get the feeling that I shouldn't do it. It was something more than fear. I felt that it would be wrong. I felt ashamed, more than I've ever felt in my life. I felt like if I climbed out the window, I'd be betraying everything. You, Lily, Mom, Dad, that everyone would know what a bad person I was for doing something so terrible. My hands were shaking and my stomach cramping up. I started to cry, Jane, thinking about all the people that would hate me if I climbed out that window. I'm sure it was them. Something they're doing. Somehow they're still in my head, giving me feelings and images, feeding me people's faces, frowning, twisted in disappointment and hatred. I remember all the times you ever hurt me with a glance, or a word, or a silence, and I relive them all whenever I think of trying to escape. It has to be them, and I know it, but I can't do anything about it. I'm sitting here writing, and I should be gone from here, but I can't. Even now, I feel like if I think about the window anymore, I'm going to be sick. Jane, I've been trying all day. I can't do it. I'm not strong enough. If I tried to climb down this way, sobbing, shaking, water falling around me, I'd slip. It's like something physical racking my body, like a dog's shock collar. I feel so helpless. I keep thinking of when we first moved to the city and everyone seemed so strange and awful. Everywhere I looked, it was this wave of people who were too busy, too cold, too downcast to care about me. Our shitty studio apartment with the giant roaches. The nights being woken up by gunfire, times we couldn't afford dinner. I thought this place would swallow us whole, Jane, but it didn't. I keep thinking about that, how drastically things can change. I need you, Jane. Please be with me if you can. I promise I'll find you. I'll save you if you'll just be with me now. I don't feel like writing anymore. I feel sick. I tried to work on the script some, but couldn't see the point. They say that a real writer will write even if there's no chance of anyone ever reading their work. I'm going to try and sleep. June 14th. Dear Jane, they want me. They want me to be like the other ones below. They want me to work for them. That's what they want. More dreams last night, more thoughts, memories, food, sex, feelings, colors, exploded and then gone. Once they explode, they're hard to say in words. I tried to describe blueberry pancakes. That's all I came up with. Blueberry pancakes. Pancakes with blueberries. Sweet, round. It's hard to say now, hard to connect these ideas. I had to read what I wrote yesterday. I couldn't even read all of it. Some of it was fuzzy. Some words I had to read over and over. I can see them. I can taste them like I'm eating them. They're the whole world, but only when they want them to be. I can't describe anything well otherwise. It's like a drawer is labeled pancakes, but there's nothing there now. I lost the key. I think that's how they do it to us. The ants. I think they can't hear me because they can't hear the words. All their thoughts are exploded. I yelled at them and I threw pillows down there and an ashtray. The ashtray was metal and one of them took it and left with it. Bastard. I hate them, Jane. I don't want to be one. I don't want you to be. Are you? In the morning there was food here. Old bread, cheese, brown, mushy bananas. But the furniture was gone from the other room. And the sheets, the rope. Now nothing's left. Not even toilet or sink. I pee out the window. I use wallpaper for toilet paper. But they left my notebook because I keep it in a vent for now. They didn't look there, I think. When I try to think of some things now, I get the sadness again. I get ashamed. I see horrible faces. I see you, Jane, so disappointed. When I'm asleep, they steal my words. They steal everything but the pictures that are too big to see. The feelings are so big I can't feel anything else. The wants are so strong, not fulfilling them is like torture. The tastes and smells are so coarse and brutal, smashed into my head. They fill everything, make me blind. I can fight it in the day, but at night when they come, the light people, they explode my mind. There is a little pile of metal things in the middle of the room, Jane. All the things I could find in the room. Screws from the light switch cover, the vent cover, the light fixture. I pulled them all out and piled them in the middle of the room because they made me want to do that. I didn't want to do it, but they wanted me to, and then I wanted to, and to not do it was like torture. It was like hell. So I did it, and now the pile is there. I am thinking of what to do. I will try to do something. I don't want to give them any more of me. June 14th. Dear Jane, things to remember. 1. Jane, soft brown skin, yellow eyes, like a cat, loves me. 2. Jane and Lily, Christmas dinner in Georgia, when Robert called me a bum and Jane got mad and Lily laughed. That night in guest room, making love for first time. 3. Moved to New York. Jane makes beautiful paintings. Big, abstract, shapes and colors. She says they are her secrets. 4. Night Jane reads first draft of script. Just smiles and smiles. 5. Night I propose with bad painting of a ring. Jane laughs. 6. Jane's first New York show. The bad review. Crying on my shoulder in the park. Trying to feel sad because she is sad, but feeling so happy just to be with her, to be the one she cries with. 7. I need to read this journal every day. I need to try hard to remember the words in it. 8. I am putting an alphabet at the end of this book. I need to study it each day. 9. I need to remember as much as I can. 10. I need to find Jane. Getting a headache. Have to stop. What I am going to do. Not sleep tonight. Stay awake. Not going to dream again. Going to write more in the morning. June 15. Dear Jane, I killed someone. This morning, 2 of the workers came here. I heard them at the door and then they busted in. 2 big men wearing normal clothes, looking normal except for those empty faces, those heads full of exploded thoughts. The bigger one, fat, strong, greasy, stinking, pushed me into a corner, held me against the wall. I kicked, but he didn't feel it. Held me against the wall like a press. He breathed heavy and his breath stank. I yelled at him, talk to me, you have to help me. He had his mouth a little open and his eyes stared and he held me there. The other one had a black machine. It was round and black, had cords hanging down. The big one was holding me so the other one could put the machine in my room. I don't know what it is. I thought it could be a bomb, could be a torture device. I don't know. So I struggled and yelled because I didn't want it there. I didn't want it in here. I tried to talk to them. They move so slow. That's the worst. How slow he took his time and set the machine up and moved parts around and bolted it to the floor and checked it here and there. So slow while I kept kicking at the big man who just doesn't notice, who just stares while his shins start bleeding from where I keep kicking him. But he found my notebook, Jane. When I was struggling, he wasn't just staring, because he saw it in my jacket pocket, my notebook, my pens. He came to life, like they were inside him, like they told him what to want and he wanted it. He started reaching for the notebook, slow, and my arm was free, so I hit him in the face, in the left eye. I felt his cheekbone and my knuckles hurt badly. He didn't stop reaching. I knew he was going to take the notebook, Jane, and I got scared. I need to read it, to keep writing, to keep my mind. I can't be like them, mindless, staring, mouth open, dead, dead, dead. I hit him again in the face and he moved a little. But this time the sadness came, and I felt terrible, that I was hurting this poor man, that I would be blamed forever and ever for hurting him. And I almost stopped, but I kept going because I was so scared of losing the notebook, Jane. I kept hitting him until finally he stopped pressing me against the wall and I could move again. The other one was finished now with the machine. He was leaving, opening the door. He didn't care about the big one. He was just doing his work and he was leaving. I tried to run for the door and the big one pulled me back by the shirt and threw me down. I slammed onto the ground and the door shut, so again the room was sealed, but the big one stayed and bent down with his fat fingers to tear at my shirt for the notebook. I yelled. I hit him in the face with both fists and his nose bled, dripping down on me, and he didn't notice and kept grabbing. I rolled and pushed and bit to get out from under him. I got out. I ran to the side. He followed me. Not running, just walking, so fucking slow and casual, like a Sunday stroll, with his shins and his face bleeding and his arm bleeding where I had bit him. I strangled him to death. I used my jacket. I got behind him with my jacket and I pulled it tight around his neck. He didn't struggle much. He pulled at the jacket with his hands, but I held it there. He started making choking noises. I felt so sad, Jane. They made me feel so sad. I felt my little sister's wet hair under my hands as I forced her under water. Heard my father begging for me to stop while I hit him again and again with a pipe. I felt like I was murdering my whole family, like I was the biggest killer, killing everyone I loved one at a time. I kept crying and shouting and crying, but I pulled the jacket tighter because I knew I needed the notebook no matter what. I knew it was all a trick, even when I saw you, Jane, even when I saw that it was you I was choking. I kept holding the jacket and I felt your lightness and I heard your last breath while I killed you. I choked you, Jane, until you stopped pulling at the jacket, and I let your body slowly down to the ground, and now you're here, and they won't let me see the man again. The bigger man. Even though I know that's who I really killed. No matter what. When I look at the body, they make me see you. It just looks like you are just lying dead there, just in the room there. It's such a mean trick, Jane. They're bastards to put this machine here, this black ball fastened to the floor that never moves and never does anything. I think it's just to torture me, so I know that at any second it could blow up and kill me and I can't do anything. They torture us. Why? So casual. So cold, they leave your image in my mind. They plaster it over the dead body in the corner. Make your face so big in my head that I can't see anyone else. Blueberries. All I think is how much time we could have had. You always wanted to go out, but I had papers to grade. I had students who needed me. At night I had to work on my writing, rewrite, get something published. I had to prove that I was good too, that I could be a good artist like you and your paintings. So fucking stupid. Could have been holding you in my arms all that time. How stupid can I be, Jane? Could have been making love or talking or holding hands. Could have seen a movie. Could have done anything but sit and be jealous and grade fucking papers. I'm sorry, Jane. Please don't be dead. Please don't die anymore. I'm going to find you somehow. Please don't look dead and empty when I find you. Please be Jane. June. Dear Jane, I don't know what day it is. I am sleeping for a long time. It is the machine. It hurts more. It is them, more of them, when I sleep everywhere. The machine makes them stronger in my dreams. They are bright orange and purple and red in my dreams. They want me to give up my notebook, but I won't. When I don't, they make me hurt. They make me burn. They burn my thoughts and try to make me forget. They make my memories so hot inside my head I can't hold on to them anymore. But I touch them anyway. I hold them and my hands blister and char in my dreams. I need to remember. I need to hold on to the words. They said in my dreams that they want me to leave the notebook, leave it behind. I know because the notebook is the hottest thing. It burns to even think about the notebook. It burns to write. It burns worse to read. It makes my teeth grind, my eyes water. I throw up. I claw myself. But I read, Jane, to remember. I read even though I cannot read much, and a lot is nothing, just scribbles. I will never not write, Jane. I will never not read. That is the answer. They can make it hot, but they can never force me. I can keep reading, and I will always remember some. I will keep writing. I read the alphabet. I write letters. I will write each day. They will have to kill me, Jane. I will not be their aunt. They are down below. I watch them. They are done with the metal. Now they flow. They march. They move all in one direction. Thousands of the workers going one way. I do not know why. I don't care. I will find you. Things to remember. 1. Find Jane. 2. Colors. Red, purple, orange, blue, yellow, pink, green. 3. Shapes. Square, circle, triangle. 4. Animals. Cat, dog, mouse, cow, crow, house, child, lamb, sheep, wool. 5. Love, good feeling. 6. Lily, mom, dad. 7. Foods, oranges, blueberry pancakes. 8. Read, write, alphabet, remember. Dear Jane, I finding you, but they taking I away. In dark now, many ants. Yesterday morning, ants come opening door, many, millions ants in hallway. They staring, they letting I out of room. Notebook burning, but I holding it tight. They not trying to taking it, they leading I down to street. Million marching, all marchings, I marching with them. They leading us for long time, we marching through city. More ants join marching, all marching, we go. I seeing your paintings. Jane, I seeing your paintings, I seeing gallery. I seeing your paintings through big window. I remembering you being there, you being at show. I hold burning book, I running, ants following I running in the gallery. Big, white. Jane, I seeing all your paintings. I seeing the black one with pink circles. I seeing the small blue ones. The many small blue ones together. I seeing the rope. I seeing the tree. I seeing the man with the yellow ears. I seeing the gray shapes and the red dots. I seeing all the beautiful paintings, Jane. I seeing all the paintings at your show, at your gallery. I going to opening. I seeing them. I seeing your secrets. I seeing you whispering to me, Jane. I seeing all your secrets in the paintings. I never seeing before so beautiful. So very good, Jane. I loving. I remembering them all. No words, just pictures. I remembering. But I know seeing Jane. I seeing ants. I seeing millions ants. I holding notebook. I burning. Ants grabbing me. I fighting and hitting and slashing, crashing. I fighting Jane, but they millions ants. They many. We march again. Now. Dark. Big room. Big machine. Looking like machine in hotel. Bigger. Much bigger. Many ants waiting. Not letting I leaving. Looking for you here, hours, but not finding. Trying to run from crowd, not allowed. Ants keep coming in, feeling crushed. So many millions. Machine humming now. Low sounds, lights going off. Ants silent, moving together, big herd crushing. Hard to writing. Rainbow people here, walking in the air, walking above, many, don't know what. Scared, missing you, Jane. Seeing your paintings, Jane. So beautiful. Machine sounding louder, strange feeling, electricity. Something happening. Going to stopping. Writing again to telling you, Jane. I writing again soon. I promising. No matter what happening, I writing again soon. I loving you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Now I'm recording.
Wonderful.
We did it.
As am I. we're good. We're entwined digitally. Speaking of streams, we just showed on our last YouTube stream, we showed everyone Nick J's. So
What?
I think that features you 5 or 6 times. That's one of my favorite sketches, man. Excellent material.
Thank you. That was a fun one. That, again, most of these sketches that ended up on our short-lived sketch show are live performances. We used to do live performance at
All right, so for the listener, in case I use scraps of this, Nick J's is a sketch involving yourself from the future running into yourself over and over until there's 4 or 5 of you. How did you do that live? How is that possible?
we just had other. It's funny because like in the live version, we just had other people just play me. So
Come in and say I'm you from the future. Okay.
yeah, and honestly, we were like, how are we going to do this? I mean, are we just going to have other people dress up like that? And then through the magic of editing, we had that. I didn't direct that one, thankfully.
Sure. But it finally occurred to you guys to use the simplest special effect in film, the very first effect ever done in the history of film, putting 2 people in one frame.
I'll be honest though, it was actually more difficult than we thought it would be once we were like, oh yeah, we'll just do split screen. But because director had to put down 5 different pieces of tape on the monitor so we weren't overlapping anything, and took a long time. but I think it worked out well.
Oh, absolutely. Nick J's phenomenal sketch. Well, for people who are completely lacking context, let me do a little spiel here. I'm very, very pleased to welcome Mr. Andrew Bush to Tales from the Pit. Thank you for being here, Andy, and thanks so much for your patience. We had to reschedule.
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
But yeah, I have very much been looking forward to this because Andy was one of the driving forces of a sketch troupe that was a favorite of Abe's and mine when we were coming up, and then we've admired from afar as you guys have done what you do. And I'm gonna be vague about it because I kind of want you to fill it in. Because we sort of got to chatting and decided to do an episode about. Well, I guess I should start with my gorgeous son, because among the dozens of comedic adventures that you've embarked upon, a recent project is this podcast that you do with Mark Little called My Gorgeous Son, that Abe and I are both obsessed with. Look forward to with bated breath every week to hear Mark Little pretend to be a wildly abusive father and just shit on you in humorous fashion. And I would argue that the premise of that show in a nutshell is, well, besides all the Babadook hats and hooves and random crazy shit, the premise began back at the beginning as you sort of returning home to Canada after quote unquote failing at Hollywood, like trying and failing, and now you're back.
Get rid of the quote.
Oh, okay. Great. So that's what we're talking about, because I'm an intensely angry, depressed person who currently is trying to make it in Hollywood and still lives here. And every day I ask myself, what the fuck am I doing? I hate this. I hate it here. I hate everyone. I hate most of the people in the industry. And I just love the work so much that I keep nursing this dream of like, doing it, getting there, getting through the wall and doing it. And, I would say both of us have had, you have had what, more than one show on the CBC, I believe at this point.
I've had, I've starred in 2 shows on CBC, 2 shows on Canadian television, 3. Yeah, like shows that I sort of that I was directly involved in creating. I had 2 shows.
There you go. Well, so for me, that's still huge because it was a show broadcast over the airwaves to televisions. Like that's still,
yeah,
that's a cool plateau I haven't reached. And yet you still, your shtick on Gorgeous Son is that you're depressed. And I think that probably comes somewhat from a true place, and that you're self-loathing and a failure. And I just want to hear the real version. I want to hear the real self-loathing and failures. I will do it in 3 phases. The first phase, I think, is what were your creative dreams and beginnings like? How'd you fall in love with this business we call show? And why'd you come to LA, and what was your goal when you got there, fresh off the bus, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed?
Completely goalless. I don't know. It's funny because I haven't. it's hard. I look back and I'm like, did I have goals? Really? I sort of got into, I guess, Canadian show business fairly early on, and I had a pretty easy time of it at first. I got on a kids show, a consumer advocacy kids show, which never would exist in America because it had no commercials and it taught kids about the evils of capitalism. Very communist, but it was on
very edgy.
Yeah, edgy. It was on the CBC, and it was called Street Sense, and it was super fun. And I did take it for granted. I was like 17, and I did some stand up at 16 that I don't know. You know, that the ignorance of youth. I just thought yelling really loud and flailing and doing a vague Jim Carrey impression meant comedy, and it did well. And then I got a show.
I was going to say, it's not that it doesn't. I mean, Dane Cook sold out arena after arena, man. Yelling loud is a thing, for sure. Will Ferrell telling you to get off the shed, you know.
Yeah.
He has other levels, but the yelling loud level is a legitimate comedic level, I would say.
Oh, I got that on lock.
Yeah, you started in the shallow end before you got the sophisticated stuff going. Can you remember any bits from your very first stand-up routine?
There was some cane twirling.
Really? Okay.
Like, I memorized all of Jim Carrey's cane twirls from Batman Forever, and then I came out twirling a cane. No reason. No
Wow.
premise. And it was for my high school. And I was lucky because there were only 2 people who did stand-up. It was a talent contest. And the gentleman before me, very nice guy, but he bombed so terribly. By comparison, anything. And I just had confidence. I don't know what it was, but I just had it. I just oozed it. I mean, I had bits about me packing groceries, and honestly, all of them were just, this sucks. Am I right? Like, just that.
Yeah, Conan gets a lot of laughs off. That joke didn't go over well. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So you talk about oozing confidence. Is the comedic persona that you sometimes inhabit I would say does not ooze confidence. Andy Bush, the comedic persona, does not ooze confidence. How connected are you in real life to Andy Bush from My Gorgeous Son, I guess, is what I'm getting at, because I would not describe you as oozing confidence, and I'm wondering if in real life, which is closer to the truth? Do you ooze confidence, or has that gone from you? Was that a teenage Andy thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think very early on I felt this imposter syndrome happen, and I felt like I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm on TV. Why am I on TV? I shouldn't be here. And you know, I did Street Sense for 4 years, then I left, and I eventually kind of like hit this wall where I was like, I really want to I don't think comedy is just yelling. I think there's more to it. I think there's premise. I love.
Sure.
I want to learn how to do that. Once you start to kind of really hit it and sit down and be like, okay, what works and what doesn't. This self-loathing just kind of seeped in, and yeah, it was pretty tough for a while. And I actually I went to Toronto and got my ass kicked and started a sketch troupe with one of the members was Thomas Middleditch from.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which is very odd. Fantastic guy. And another guy named David Deneen Porter and James Hartnett. They're incredible comedians. I don't know. And then, I just I went from there and then did Picnicface after that. And now I don't know if that's a persona, man. I think that's just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So that leads to my next question is, well, also as an aside, so I guess, you really came in through the comedy angle, right? Like comedy is what first appealed to you, or Street Sense doesn't sound like it was strictly comedic, was it?
Well, it was. It was kind of like, what is that show?
It's like All That or something?
It was a little, it was aged up, and we would do, our parodies would be involved, we would do a thing about, kids would ask, why are chip bags half full? And we would explain in a funny way, maybe through a Dawson Creek parody, that it's because, there needs to be some air so the chips don't crush. Or we'll talk about like taxes or something like that. And we'll do it as a Buffy the Vampire Slayer sketch.
Sure. Musical number.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I do think there's a high correlation between being in comedy specifically versus just being a writer of any sort and self-loathing and the imposter syndrome. And I don't know. My only working theory is that comedy, the comedic mind, you eventually train yourself to take everything apart because it's sort of the process of crafting a joke usually or often involves looking at something and going, this is why that sucks. Or looking at something and going, sure, that seems great, but here's why it's hypocritical or bullshit. Because the undermining or the subterfuge is sort of part and parcel of being a jester in society. And I find it impossible to not look at yourself then and go, oh yeah, humans are bullshit too. Oh, I'm bullshit too. Oh wow, everything's pretty much bullshit.
Well, and
yeah.
that in of itself it gets pretty tired pretty quickly, where you're like, oh wow, I am now that, which is honestly a trope. So you start to feel, because you're always, at least I am you're trying to avoid these tropes, and in trying to avoid a trope, you become one. So that's something that I've kind of like dealt with a lot. Like I'll go into this kind of meta spiral, and then it'll end with me just going, well, I'm just gonna play some Hearthstone. Like that's
yeah.
And I don't work on stuff. And where Mark I think excels, although he's similar in that, like he consistently questions what he does and works through things. But what I do like about how he works is he'll often break through that wall. He'll just he'll sit through it. He'll sit in it and he'll break through. Whereas I'll often, if I'm left to my own devices, I'll just I'll see that wall. I'll maybe like push a little bit and I go like, fuck it.
Take a bath, something. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Hearthstone's pretty easy though. I'm really good at it. So yeah.
Were you a Magic the Gathering guy at all?
No, I didn't play any of that stuff, but I just got sucked into this Hearthstone game, and it's such a great time killer.
So the evolutions of, and for me, yeah, it was very similar. It was like, I knew I wanted to be a writer, and then comedy was the first thing that worked out. So here I am, a comedian. So the growth can be organic, but regardless of how you ended up there, I have to imagine that by the time you have some years behind you and some lauded projects, and you're like, I am a comedian, this is at least this phase of my life, you become invested in goals and the expansion of your brand, or where is this leading, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I did. But I guess what I'm asking from your perspective is, why and how did that snowball into deciding you need to move to Los Angeles? And then what was that experience like for you? This, I guess, is really the heart of the episode.
Well, I mean, that's a good question, because, like, I don't know. I never really pictured myself going to Los Angeles. It was never a goal of mine. I mean, if I could choose my career, it would be, I get to live and work in my hometown and do stuff that I like, that puts food on the table, and I can sort of like make a life for myself. Los Angeles wasn't horrible, to be honest. It was just it was a bit surreal because it wasn't really in my plans. What happened was Picnicface was canceled, and then a friend of mine who was sort of following me, and I was actually following him for quite some time, worked at Funny or Die, and he was like, well, dude, do you want to like come work for Funny or Die? I was also a huge fan of can I say Cracked? Can I say?
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely.
I mean, I've been following you as well. I watched your I think it was like you were playing a video game explaining
Enter the Gungeon video. Oh yeah.
Again, it was very similar. I felt very, we can get into it, but I felt very similar at the time. So it was really, honestly, really nice to hear from someone that I like was following and respected in that, like what you were doing at Crack, to publicly talk about it, because I didn't feel comfortable publicly. I didn't feel like I had an audience, to be honest, anyway. But it was nice to hear someone be like, oh yeah, okay.
Are you kidding me with those POWERTHIRST views? You didn't think there were people waiting for missives from Picnicface?
That's Picnicface, and this was honestly after I left Funny or Die, to be honest. So I worked there for 2.5 years. I learned a huge amount, and everybody there is incredibly talented. But I think in my limited perspective, I felt like I got in at the beginning of the end. Or the change, that the change that happened that I think maybe happened with Cracked. And
College Humor felt it as well. There was a sort of event that swept the very specific industry of comedy on the web outlets. And if you look right around the same time, within about a year of each other, all those places just laid huge swaths of people off. And it had to do, at least in our case, and I'm wondering if you heard anything like this over at FOD, but with us, a big part of it was everyone trusting the Facebook algorithm was accurate and constantly changing content to hit whatever Facebook told us to hit. And then finding out several years into that shift that Facebook was completely fabricating their numbers from nothing. It's absolute fraud, bald-faced fraud.
Like, I'd heard that Facebook was doing that. I wasn't really that high up the totem pole at Funny or Die. I was a content creator. I mean, I just got like tired, and maybe I did get lazy after a while. I could do a video or I couldn't. It didn't feel like it really mattered. So in the end, when I did go, it made sense, because I was like, I really did question. I started questioning things like, do I like this? Like, am I funny? Like, is this something?
Does this make me even happy? Yeah, is this what I want to do?
And it's a weird thing, because you're working in a place where, I mean, you're not getting paid a lot of money, but again, that shouldn't be the issue, even though it is. You do want to make something to live. You make just enough money to lose money, you know what I mean? And
well, that's what I feel like. If I make enough money to live, I'm perfectly content, and excess money actually starts to make me feel weird and crappy about systems and myself. But LA is very expensive to live in. Like, the amount you need just to live is quite high. You really got to earn in this town.
Oh, absolutely. I know. And there is also, in Los Angeles, there is this kind of this feeling of upward mobility and I don't think I was that person. I was someone who, I got to a point where I really did just kind of I was like, what do you need me to do? I'll do it well. But once it's done, I go home. I just sit, I play Hearthstone, and that's that.
I was imagining Funny or Die Andy first discovering Hearthstone and being like, well, this changes everything.
Now I don't just go home and sit and stare at the wall anymore. Now I can play again. So that's what happened. But eventually, I mean, the work was just, I had done a television show, and I did a feature as well, and it was really great, and I learned a lot. But it got to a point where it was rare that I was doing complicated and elaborate projects for Funny or Die. A lot of this time, it was kind of like a straight-to-camera thing. And, that still takes some skill, because you got to work with the actor, you got to find funny bits, you got to make things work. But just on a technical level, it gets a little bit boring. So, well, it's tough because, I didn't take the opportunity that I think I should have, perhaps, at least on some level, to really make connections and work. I worked with some pretty good talent. I didn't stay in touch, and I didn't do those things that I think that's really what Funny or Die was for. And that's honestly what they were like, look, this is an opportunity. We're giving you an opportunity here, kind of thing. You still, regardless of it, you should still make that opportunity. So but it gets to a point where you just break, where you're like, I can't just put a camera and have someone talk at the camera. I need to do something else. And it's funny you say, you don't know what you're doing and whatnot, because I mean, small beans, I just kind of getting into it, like this network that you've kind of helped build or built yourself is so impressive to me, because it's something that I think that I look back on, like even Mark and I look back on sometimes, we're like, man, we really kind of let Picnicface go because our ultimate goal with Picnicface was to get on Canadian television. And
which you achieved. I mean, I was lucky enough to cross paths with Mark at a comedy event, and he ended up mailing me the DVDs of the show.
oh, wow.
What a fucking phenomenal show. I mean, I watch it over and over. I bootleg DVDs of your show, but yeah, I feel bad that stuff's not on YouTube for people, for, Yanks to see. But I can see why that's so for me, and that's what's funny about this industry too. By the way, thank you so much for the kind words. That really means a lot, especially considering the source. But yeah, and that's why you start to question, am I just incapable of being satisfied or happy with whatever's going on? Am I always going to be, because comparison's the thief of joy, and it definitely is in the case of like, oh, you got on TV, you got a TV show. In my mind, I would be like, wow, your live stream came true. You're done, buddy. Good job. But you're like, yeah, but I'm 36. I need more stuff to do between now and when I die. It's like, I don't know. You don't always think about that part if you're goal oriented, You're like, all right, what now?
Well, that or sometimes when you actually, like, for example, last year, I got a show on the air. Mark and I got a show called Cavendish, which I don't think is going to get sold in the States. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But it'd be really nice.
Okay.
But it got canceled. We had a show. We had like 8 episodes. CBC was fantastic. It was the biggest thing we ever did. I mean, the budget was, for a Canadian show, generous. And we got to do what we want. We had creative control. And I was really fun. But then it ended. And you get this, or at least I've experienced, is like you get this feeling, like when I had the show, I kind of had this feeling of guilt because there's a lot of like incredibly talented people out there who have great ideas and it's not happening for them. And then when it ends, you get this, you go through so many different reasons why it happened. You concoct all of these things, and then of course other people are telling you this is why like
why the cancellation, you mean?
Yeah, and then you just get into that spiral.
You guys pissed off the locals who actually live in the area where Cavendish was set. I thought that was pretty funny from an outsider's perspective.
I'm from the East Coast. I'm not from Prince Edward Island, but I'm from Nova Scotia, which is like 3 hours away. I felt like this was a love letter to this town, but there were some people who were like, that's not what we're like. And when you see like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I don't look at that and go, oh yeah, there's probably like just a lot of crack addicts, and it's always like
everyone's like Frank or Rickety Cricket. That's what Philly is like. Cavendish had surreal elements too, so I was like, right, there's also not like a feral pig man that takes people in the night in Prince Edward Island. I know that. I don't need to be explained that that's not accurate in real life. My favorite example that's always been Raising Arizona. At the time Raising Arizona came out, a lot of Arizonans made a big stink about like, why do they have Southern accents? Why do they have, no one in Arizona is like this? And it's like, yeah, it's like a surreal cartoonish Arizona that we made up. Go fuck yourself. So yeah, I do want to confirm for you. First of all, I can't believe empathy can be a block sometimes. And to imagine that you're sitting there feeling bad for people who didn't get the opportunity to have 8 episodes of a canceled show. You have deep wells of empathy within you, sir, to spare it for them. But I will also say, as someone who has friends who have shows who doesn't have a show, it's true. Your friends are both super happy for you and questioning everything about why they can't get a show. It does both. So like, and I've been on both sides of that equation, right? Like I've seen exactly.
And it's an odd thing too, because I will say, going from having my own show with Picnicface to going to work at Funny or Die was also a weird experience, because I was like, amongst 7 other people. I was like a showrunner. I was directing half of the episodes. I was sitting in the edit suite along with Mark editing it. So I had a huge amount of like work to do, but there was a lot of like creative control. And then when you get to Funny or Die, It's a different thing. Sure, I had sort of creative control, but it wasn't my thing. It was there were lots of other people working on it. It feels like really weird. And then again, it just happened with Cavendish, where I had all of these questions to answer, and I had all of these things that people would just come up and give me. I had so much. I don't want to say power because that sounds weird, but I just had so much creative control, I guess is what I'm saying. And now I'm like, is my next job going to be like, I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, are you between jobs right now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So running Small Beans is a delight specifically because of the level of creative control, which is essentially absolute. But the trade-off of it being absolute, other than that I do what the fans want. They become my new boss versus my boss, But, and I like that about the patronage system. I think the fans as a whole are usually smarter and more interesting in their feedback than like a lawyer who's above you, who's telling you to cut budget for whatever reason. But that said, the amount of work is so staggering that I wake up and have panic attacks and don't know how I'm going to do it all. And my close friends and my girlfriend will be like, well, maybe think about shifting directions, not meaning don't be a writer or whatever, but maybe Small Beans, it's almost 2 years old now. Maybe you metamorphose into the next thing. And I'm like, I can't just make there be a thing, though. It seems like it sometimes, but it's not true. Someone has to offer me an opportunity or a job. Like I can't or a script I write has to get purchased. I can't just go, we're doing this now, which is a unique thing about our industry, I think, or the creative industries, is just that period where something ends, because everything must end. Small Beans will end someday. And then I go, wait, I'm basically starting over as if I just stepped out of college, or like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
I have
yeah.
no job leads. I have nothing. I have no career. It starts over every time.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you're progressing. It feels like you're up and then you're down, and then you're up and then you're down. And
yeah.
And when people say, again, well-meaning people, but when people say like, have you ever thought of like doing a movie?
My mom has said, we saw this Judd Apatow movie. I just don't understand why you don't call Judd Apatow. He would love your stuff. And I'm like, all right. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, Judd, how's it going? My mom says we should do a movie.
Yeah. And, I mean, who knows? I feel like sometimes that, like Judd Apatow talks about, like with Gary Shandling, he called Gary Shandling up and he was like, I want to interview you.
I know. And that's like when I hear, so are you a bit of an introvert when you're not performing? I get that impression, but I want to ask because I don't want to assume.
It's a weird thing. Sometimes I am I guess that's when I'm performing. I'm not an introvert. Yeah. I feel awkward about asking for anything. I feel awkward reaching out to people.
Right. And
you alluded sort of having difficulty really working the network, which I also have because I make friends easily, but I don't like asking them for things, and I'm socially awkward, which the fans can't tell because I'm not real. Everything they interact with, including this, is a bit of a performance. But when you hear stories like the one that always gets me is Spielberg will talk about how he got his directing career by breaking into Universal Studios every afternoon and wandering onto Hitchcock sets and pretending he was a PA until Hitchcock would know him by face and have him run off set. And then one day he did it so many times that Hitchcock was like, I like your moxie, kid. You can carry a towel or whatever. And then he worked his way up and became Steven Spielberg. And it's funny when you hear a story like that. I mean, it's supposed to be like inspirational, but my reaction is, oh, so I'll never make it because I'm not a jerk. Or I'm a coward. I would never break through a fence. I would never call someone at their home who doesn't know me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you hear these stories about that. I hear those stories, and then you hear like horror stories, like the Sean Young story, like where she.
Oh, what's that one?
Oh, you haven't heard that, which again
No.
is frustrating to me because like all the stories that I hear, frankly, are like where like men are like, you know what? I just walked in there and I just did it. And then you hear this story about Sean Young, which was she wanted to play Catwoman, and she like broke into, again, I don't know if this is a true story, when Tim Burton was directing, he was directing something else, and she was dressed as Catwoman, and they were like, you're crazy. this woman's crazy. Get her out of here. And then like that was it. And that
Wow.
sucks.
Yeah.
I'm like
that would suck.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know, like those kind of stories can go either way.
It's true. For every successful Steven Spielberg, there was a kid who Hitchcock had his goons take outside and beat the crap out of. It doesn't always work out. Yeah.
You hear that all the time where they're like, "Oh, that's how I do it." And really it's just like there's so much luck involved, but also I mean, if I was like the motivational speaker inside of me is just like, it just takes it. You just got to keep going. You got to, like, when you hit that wall, you just have to just keep pushing, even though it doesn't feel like it budges. It actually is.
I would, and feel free to disagree, but I feel like part of the show is comparing, different scars and seeing how they're different. So this might not have been your experience, but I feel like banging your head against the wall is, I want to caution people that in my experience, there is also such a thing as not being willing to admit that that chance and luck are part of it. See, because I was raised to, and I'm trying to get over this, but I sort of view the universe as a slot machine, not even a slot machine, as a school, and where I'm working so hard and I'm trying so hard, and I know inside that I'm not just working hard, but I'm nice and I care about other people and the community, and I make art for the right reasons, and I'm not greedy for money. And yet at some level, I am also deluding myself, because I'm sitting there thinking, and therefore I earned X amount of reward, and I'm just waiting for the universe to parcel that up and hand it to me. And that is not going to happen, or it will, but whether it does or doesn't involves so much luck. And I think if you get trapped into the delusion that the harder you work, the more success you'll have, you can do what I do, which is every time things aren't the way I want, I pull an all-nighter. I find some way to work 24 hours in a row. And that's not good either, man. It has downsides.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
there's diminishing returns all the way. And absolutely, yeah, and I totally understand, but I also believe that, like, nothing will happen if you do nothing. So
you do nothing. So, but was that luck piece and random chance piece hard for you to accept, or you formulated in such a way that wasn't a difficult hurdle for you? Because for me, a big difficult thing that I always reckon with is how much chance is involved. And like you said, like, one of the most horrible moments in my life was I auditioning over and over as an actor and having directors once or twice pull me aside and literally say shit like, I just need you to know so that you go away with a good feeling. You were by far the best, most talented. You shouldn't give up. But anyway, you're 5 inches too tall, so no. And thinking what bullshit that is, but that's not the crushing moment. The crushing moment was then casting my first thing I was directing and realizing I immediately, like, I want to cast the person who looks like I want them to look on film. I don't care how hard they're working or how much they care in their heart, because I can't see those things. I just need the person who fits the role. And I was like, God damn it. So the system is not cruel because those casting directors were jerks. Life is just cold and cruel and doesn't care that your heart is big or that you care a lot.
I've been on both sides of the table. I auditioned one time for a Canadian television show that was like, it was so weird, man. Like, I did one part once where, like, I played an HIV activist, and no one would listen to me at this conference, so I had to grab a woman, and I had a needle full of blood, and I had to put it to her neck, and I had to scream, "This has AIDS." I had to do that. I did that. That's recorded. And then almost I just spewed some kind of information about HIV. And then I was immediately shot in the head by a security officer in Canada.
And this was for the children's show Street Sense, I assume?
That was the finale. Just insane. But I did an audition just to speak to your, like, I worked so hard on this thing. I did an audition, and the director literally slammed the table and said, "We gotta cast this guy. We gotta cast him." And I walked out, and I was like, fuck yeah. all right, my hard work paid off. Never heard from him. Never heard from anybody.
Oh, yeah. I've had people go, now, I've had like a director stand and look at his PAs and go, now that's acting. Not for the camera. That's real acting, grounded acting. Thank you, sir. And then it's like you never hear from them ever, like another word. That was that.
I don't do that on the other side. When I see something, I'm friendly and supportive, but I'm not like, yes, that's perfect. Even if I'm like, this is perfect, because who knows what will happen? Who knows when you're when we were putting together the cast for Cavendish, there were so many factors that were going on. We had a lot of great people, and I think we chose the perfect cast. We truly did.
The parents are both very funny.
Such a fan of all of the people, and I really am. But it was like really hard to get all those pieces in place. And yeah, you're like, it's so weird when you're looking. We looked at, I want to say like 600 people, and I watched, because this is like my show, I watched every audition, and I was like, because I was an actor, I tried to go to the auditions and sit and, really be there, because, when you're an actor, you're like, I want the director to be there. He needs to see me. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't when you like,
you try to do that for them, but then you realize it wouldn't have affected my decision. I was always going to pick this person.
Like the clip. And then you really you do know in the first minute. And I would see actors, not even a minute. I would see actors do an audition, because I would sit, behind the table, and I saw one actor, he did it, and he finished it, and I was like, good. He was like, no, I fucked it up. Can I do it again? Just one more time, please. And I was like, of course, do it again. He did it exactly the same way. I mean, exactly.
Right.
And he's like, okay, all right, good.
Oh, but the second time he was happy with it, he's like, that was the one.
Yeah, he felt the difference. And I've been there too, where I've been like, no, that read, I should have said, you get out instead of you get out.
Right. Or like the tremor in my left leg had not fully subsided by the time I started the scene. I should do it again because my shakes have calmed down. And it's like, they didn't see your foot shaking. They were looking at your face because you're acting. So the broader picture I'm getting is that, and kudos to you, I think it's the right way to be, is you haven't pegged all of your identity and all of your self-worth to making it in Hollywood per se. Like, your goals are not. You said that you weren't sure your goals were specific, or that you felt like you were more going with the flow. And I find that people who have the ability to go with the flow end up less bitter and self-loathing. So I guess that's what I'm trying to reconcile, is when I said, but would you describe it as a failure? You said yes, absolutely, and laughed like, don't put quotes around it. I failed. So my question is to you, if your goals were not concrete, in what sense did you feel like you failed? You know what I mean? Did you just have a vague notion that you should have gotten more out of being in LA? What made it feel, where does the dissatisfaction come from?
Well, there it is. Like, if you don't have goals and you have no way to measure success or failure, can you fail? Like, I mean, I think that's what it was. My school motto was not to try is to fail, which I always loved. It's just so harsh. That's kind of what it was. I was like, for me, it was just more like, if I don't really have any kind of, goal here or any kind of anything, then it's fine. And I'll do. And the problem was, the city is just. The city's like so goal oriented, and it feels like it's so easy to make acquaintances, but hard to make friends, or at least it was for me. So, because it's so fucked up, because you'll meet people and then you'll say it's so hard to make friends, it's so easy to make acquaintances, and they'll be like, I know what you mean, and you'll have this connection, but you never really do, because you're still acquaintances.
Everyone is so busy trying to hustle. It's just a time thing. Like, I know that everyone I know in LA sees their friends so rarely, even their closest friends, that I think other people in other jobs would be like, you're not really friends. It's like, no, that's my closest friend. We just only see each other once a month, even though we live 4 miles apart, because they have shows in the evening and I have a shoot in the morning, and on and on and on. But, well, speaking of the acquaintanceship thing and the goal-oriented thing, like I've been to parties where a bunch of people there, nominally my friends, but obviously everyone's also there to make business connections in the industry. And my girlfriend will come with me, and we've had the experience multiple times. And I think people who haven't lived here might not know it's this extreme of people talking to me and go, "Oh, what do you do?" And I go, I talk about my history of cracked or try to define what I do exactly. And they get the whiff of like, "Oh, he's had some success with XYZ project," or maybe I've seen After Hours. "Oh, I realize who you are." And then they want to talk to me, right? My girlfriend, I will go like, "And this is my girlfriend." And they'll go, "And what do you do?" And she'll go, "Oh, I'm a social worker," which to me is fascinating. Like if you meet a social worker at a party, don't you immediately have questions and think they probably have very interesting stories? But people will literally not say a word and just turn away from her. Like, like they don't have time at this party to invest a second of conversation with someone once they realize, "Oh, you're not in the entertainment industry. This is over." Like they'll just turn their back on you. And we've had that happen over and over. And it's just, I think speaks to what you're saying. It made me realize this is a job interview. Like this party is a job interview. It's not a real party. And I've been at that party a lot of times. And as soon as I realize I'm in a job interview or audition situation, I get like I frightened like an animal gets frightened. So yeah, it's a rough place to maintain friendships. I definitely feel you there.
Man, the weather, eh? The weather? Ah, the weather's great.
Was it worth it? Did you really appreciate? I mean, you're in Nova Scotia, so you have a special view on weather.
It's not an exaggeration. We do have 4 months of just like you have to plan anytime you want to walk outside. And you'll have days where you're like, wow, if I didn't wear certain types of clothing, I would be dead within an hour, and I didn't if I just stayed outside in a t-shirt, I would die. I always felt that like with Los Angeles, it was, I really did. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that kind of experience. And I will also say there was also this kind of feeling of like, well, there's nowhere else to go career-wise. Like geographically, there's nowhere else to go. This is the place where everybody goes. This is where everyone wants to go. So many people in the entertainment industry in Canada want to get their visa. That's a big thing
right.
for Canadians. It costs so much money. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so funny because Americans are like, why don't you just come down and work here? And you're like, you have no idea. I have friends who, because I've gotten a lot of work, it was fairly easy to get my O1 visa. But there's people who are just, you got to pay about something like $5 or $6 grand. And there's no guarantee that you'll even get it because you need a sponsorship. You need to prove that it's a person of exceptional ability. I have the same visa as Justin Bieber. You have to prove that you're like...
Well, I would say your talent levels are fairly similar.
Oh.
You're as funny as Justin Bieber is funny.
He did Funny or Die a couple times. I wanted to like tell him I was from Canada, but I was like, nah, I'm not. He did a Funny or Die takeover one time where he's like, yo, this is Justin Bieber and this is my website now. And I was like, all right.
Okay, so he's following Justin Timberlake's every career move down to the micro, like, oh, now I'm going to get into sketch comedy. Well, bring it on into Omeleteville.
I mean, I don't know. Whatever. He's fine. I really don't know that much about American kid shows or anything like that, really. Because we had a lot of great Canadian kid shows that were really fucked up and weird. Oh, yeah. So great.
So do we. Yeah, kids shows is a great subgenre. I actually think often because it's for children, when you find a kids show that the people who crafted it were trying to do a good job, they tend to have like a higher baseline quality than adult shows because, I don't know, you don't get into children's programming usually unless you want to, like you care about that genre or whatever. So yeah, one of my guilty pleasures is watching shows that are far too young for like, I'm 34 and I'll watch an episode of Arthur or Between the Lions, but you guys probably didn't have those.
We had Arthur.
What did you guys have?
I mean, this wasn't a kid show; it was more family. Oh, we had Harriet's Magic Hats. That was one that was great. We had the Littlest Giant, or the, well, it's not the Littlest Giant, the Littlest Hobo.
Just a man of average height.
Yeah, the Littlest Giant would just be a normal-sized man.
Yeah. The Littlest Hobo.
I mean, it was just Lassie, but it was like it was essentially a dog that would go from town to town and save people's lives and stuff. And every time it was heartbreaking because the kid, it would usually be a child, and they'd be like, they would name him some name, like they would call them, Chuck or Rex or something. He's like, and Rex, are you coming home?
Right.
And then Rex would just stare at the child and then just run into a field and run away. And the kid would just be like, no, Rex. And you would tell
so it's a dog. It's a dog that saves kids but refuses to bond with any one child.
Exactly. Just jumps on some kind of train and there's they're gone.
Next kid.
Yeah.
I was imagining like a tiny 3-inch bindle carrying hobo.
Nope.
On kids' shoulders being, I'll tell you what you should do with your life, kid.
Yeah.
All right, well, back to crushing depression. When was the moment you knew you were coming home? Was that also around a job, or was it the moment the Funny or Die job ended? When the Funny or Die job ended, was there any period of time where you were debating whether to stay or go? Or were you like, fuck this, I'm out. I'm the littlest hobo of entertainers. I'm gone.
I said to myself, I will say this, I did say to myself that I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't want to be one of those people in a coffee shop with absolutely no job, with their laptop open, writing. I would go there when I had a job. I actually, I think I was sitting next to Bo Burnham when he was writing grade 8, because he was often there next to me writing like some screenplay. And I'm like, oh, I really,
Yeah.
But I will say, once the job ended, I stayed up. I couldn't sleep for about, I remember it was about a day and a half, because I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I drank a lot of 5-hour energies and I wandered around Los Angeles, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I sat in a coffee shop for 14 hours. I went home for a while and then came back again, still not really knowing. Actually, I forgot about this. I didn't know what I was going to do. This is another thing that's like in, one of those moments where like I didn't know what I was doing. And then I got an email from sort of like an agent who didn't even represent me. It was like, hey, this person needs a director. Do you want to direct this movie? I know. And it's one of those things where I'm like, it happened. I directed this movie for Lionsgate. It was like a YouTube influencer movie. I know, it sounds good. It was a fine movie. It was good. It was called Dirty 30. And it was all of these.
Okay.
It was like I want to say like the Ocean's 11 of like influencers movies. It had
of like YouTube Red.
It wasn't for
Fixers.
YouTube Red, but it was like Flula was in it. That German DJ guy. It was
Flula Borg.
Yeah, Grace Helbig and.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Great, really wonderful
Sure,
people, and it was a great experience. But again, once that was finished, and that was a lot of work and a lot of my time. Once that was finished, I think I had enough time, like during that experience, to be like, I don't. And it was odd because I'm like, I could use this and turn it into something. Probably, I just directed a film, but I was like, I don't think I want to do this. Like, I don't want to be here. And I was like, I would rather, direct a movie for hardly any money, for like $50,000 or maybe nothing. That's sort of my own thing, than maybe do another one of these. And it wasn't necessarily because the movie was bad or anything like that. It was a really good experience, but it got me energized. And I think I really was like, fuck man, I can do this. Why don't I just write something? Why don't I work with people that I know and let's do something. So and then I went home and I lived with my parents for a year.
Yay.
I did nothing. And then I got super depressed after that.
Oh, really? I fantasize about giving up and moving,
dude,
to my parents' place for a year because of the sheer weight of the relaxation effect. I could just use a break, but is it too depressing?
I did it, and I was like, I don't know. It was rough. My parents, again, very understanding. I don't know if it was burnout or if it was just like, I was just in it. I spent, I would spend like a week just not really leaving the room I was in, like that. I think I'm like, yeah, I guess this is depression.
Is that I was gonna get to the question we always eventually get to, which is, hey, what's it like for you in there? So like when you're experiencing grief, depression, sadness, is that sort of how it manifests? You end up not leaving the room?
It's odd. It's like I find it's really like the gravity changes. So it's like being on Jupiter, or it's like being underwater. Everything is heavy. Every motion and everything you do is requires an intense amount of effort. Something that you normally wouldn't even think about requires immense amount of like mental preparation just to like do laundry or just to do anything like that, and you feel exhausted afterwards. So that's kind of where I was at, I guess, with that, and it's odd. It was just like, I'd love to say that I just kind of like rallied and dealt with it. But I didn't like just pull myself up on my bootstraps. Again, as often as often happens, like work distracted me. Something happened, like when Funny or Die ended, I was like, I was getting down, and then this movie happened, and I was distracted. This for a year, I was kind of like just floating around, and then sort of Cavendish happened. And it sounds awful to say Cavendish happened. I did take many active steps to make it happen.
Okay, I was gonna ask, because you're starting to get me like triggered, only in that I feel, or like I know the thing that triggers my professional envy the most is whenever I hear someone, and this is my problem, not your problem, but people go, and then just randomly I got this opportunity. Because I swear to you, dude, that's never happened to me. Every opportunity I've gotten, and I'm grateful for the ones I have had, and they have involved support from many people, but to get them has always been me not listening to 1,000 people saying no and working all night for months and months to make it happen. Like, I always have to do it myself, and I dream of the day when something will just happen. Like, someone will call me and be like, I don't know, we're working on this. You want to join the team? That never happens to me.
I'll say that, yeah, because like that's such a shitty just like like in my head I'm like, oh, this I'm just giving you the Coles notes, but really, yeah, that sounds shitty to be like, oh, and then the movie, I'll be honest, like that was out of the blue. I still had to interview and show that I could do it,
right,
but that's still to me that still doesn't count, right? Like what counts is when, and with Picnicface we had a lot of that. We definitely were kind of actively trying to do stuff, and we did hit a lot of like no's, well, that's just not how it's done, or like that kind of thing. But eventually someone has to, I agree with you, like someone has to open the door eventually. And with Cavendish, like Cavendish took, like I pitched Cavendish right after Picnicface was canceled, before I went to LA. So it was on and off for about 6 years, maybe more. It was something, then it died. It was something, then it died. And it got to a point where we just didn't care about it. We just thought, well, okay, we'll just finish these scripts. We got some money from the CBC to develop it, just enough to like, write some scripts. And the last year when I was living at home, there was and I was pretty bummed, and I honestly thought it was just another one of those like, well, we'll just finish these scripts and whatever. But it seemed to be different, and the executives there were like, you need, because we didn't have a production company or anything. It was just me and Mark and another guy, Gary Campbell, who's working on it. They were like, you got to get a production company now. So I went and I, on my own dime, flew to Toronto and interviewed production companies and met people. And I can, if I can just say now, like in that process when things are done, this is really where the work is, where you actually you're met with that, like when you have nothing and you have to come up with an idea, where you have like 8 different balls in the air and all of them fall on the ground, and you're like, well, I guess it's time to like go to the basket and pick up some more balls and throw them up in the air.
Oh my gosh. And you try to have so many try to have so many balls in the air that they never all fall simultaneously. That's only happened to me 2 or 3 times because I usually do have multiple things in process. But yeah, there's been a few times where a year-long project falls apart the same week that a 6-month-long project and a 3-week-long project fall. Like they all fall apart or end on the same day, and you really are left with you're like someone who just fell to earth walking around with no identity, being like, who am I? What do I do? Why am I here? What do I do next?
And it's so hard to keep that brave face, because once, like, if you have 3 projects up in the air, as they say, and 2 of them fall apart, and then you're going to like a meeting, an important meeting for the 3rd one, it's hard not to be like, you know, to come up with this attitude where like, well, fuck this is going to fall apart too. Like it's this kind of like, you know, this whole success breeds success thing is also kind of infuriating because yeah, I think there is a truth to that. So I don't know.
Yep. LA is a giant town full of randomized failures desperately trying to pretend that they're successful, hoping it will come true someday.
You're making me want to come back.
Hey, the weather is lovely. The water's fine, my friend. You're welcome back anytime. You can live in my parents' house for a while. See if that depresses you or not.
Oh, you never know. All right, I'll hold you to that. This counts. All
right. Well, I'm definitely going to hit you guys up if I'm ever on the east coast of Canada, but that seems unlikely. A great thing was Cracked used to send us to Just for Laughs in Montreal every year, and that's where I ran into Mark a couple times, but that is over now. So
Mark and I are going to be at Just for Laughs.
Nice. Oh yeah, I think I heard you mention on the pod that are you featured stand-up?
I guess. Oh, not stand-up. We're doing sketch, and we're also recording. We're doing a
a live episode. But I knew you were doing something unrelated, like a show as well.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. That's a ball, I guess. Is that a ball? Does that count? I don't know. Is it something?
I always found Just for Laughs to be a highlight of my year. Definitely, personally. I've always loved it. That was one of the times where I felt like I was on the right track, as I'm like, my job sends me to this place to see, you know, like I walked into a Hannibal Buress set before anyone knew, and I hadn't heard his name, and he wasn't big yet. Like I can just wander around. I saw Lauren Lapkus do stand up really early on. It's like, this is just like the promised land for comedians. I must be doing something right. Here I am. I'm stuck in the elevator with Louis C.K. when it was cool for that to have been true. Oh, well, we didn't exchange a single word. I just shared a ride with him. But I'm like, this story is a story I'm going to tell a lot. And nowadays I'm like, that's not a story I'm going to tell very often.
I went to a talk. I went to his where he talks about his process. I'm like, oh, tell me more. And now I'm like, nah, maybe that's probably not the best thing to use as template.
I'm getting back into stand-up, and I think I'm going to go the Mitch Hedberg model more than, you know, the single punchline, pause, next punchline, pause. I want to give that a shot.
Sorry, I didn't know you did stand up. You do?
I have in the past, and I'm trying to ramp it up again, yeah. But I used to do over-the-top shit to mask how scared I was. And now that I'm more comfortable on a stage, because in the interim I've done a lot of rap shows, which is weird, but there it is. I feel like I want to get back into it and do a stand-up set that doesn't demand that I am acting my balls off the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, to hide that the writing is shaky. Like, let the writing be strong enough that I can just Mitch Hedberg it. Just go, this joke. Now this joke. That sounds fun. I want to try that.
Well, I think that's great. I would be terrified of that. That's great. I have a couple of jokes that I like. They're like premise-based jokes. I mean, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. I'm sorry. I have Mark's voice in my head going, hipster joke, Andy's joke.
That's it.
We got to hear your process on My Gorgeous Son. We saw you write a joke from inception to delivery.
I've never listened to the podcast, so I don't remember.
Good for you.
I truly don't know. I'm like, I made this choice as soon as we started. I was like, I'm not going to listen to it. Our producer Stephen McLeod does a fantastic job editing it. We record for about 2 hours sometimes, and he cuts it down to 45 minutes. So
yeah, it's very tight. You both come off as like improvisers who never fail or never have a silence. And I'm like, that must mean a good editor as well, because that just doesn't exist.
With Mark, man, I gotta say, fuck, he's like improvising. He's fucking infuriating. Like
he's like an improv
like,
god.
and I will say I got to sort of see him. I got to see the inception, sort of like he'd done things before, but like he hadn't really done sketch, and he was just starting stand up, and I was more experienced as a stand up, and I got to really see the work that he put in. And he would go to, like in Halifax, go to every show and be writing, reworking, just to see that process. And it's also, you talk about professional jealousy, infuriating to watch a man who's really good at stand-up, truly, and really good at improv as well. Usually it's like, pick one. You get one. You can't take two. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Well, Donald Glover has made everything shit for me. I'm like, well, then why do any of us exist? He can just handle all of this.
I know.
God is supposed to divvy that stuff up amongst the people.
Just give me one, please.
Yeah.
I feel like Salieri.
Who, historically speaking, was a very gifted composer. He just wasn't as famous as Mozart. But like, as you said, I'll put it this way. If you lived in Salieri's time and you were as successful as Salieri had been, based on what you said at the top of the episode, you would have been perfectly pleased. You know what I mean? Like, Salieri was still a very famous musician in his lifetime.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to be buried in a mass grave. so yeah, I mean, that was like Mozart. They just chucked him in a mass grave at the end of it.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, it's true. He didn't really have much money, and it was just, that was it.
Very disobedient child, I hear Mozart was. All right, man. Well, I've said this to you online and to fans publicly, but I feel like Abe and I, who have always been a comedic sort of duo since time immemorial, almost feel like you guys are like soulmates, or you and Mark are like weird parallel Canadian versions of us, or we're the weird parallel Yankee versions of you guys. So this was delightful. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I have to go record other podcasts, so I'm not going to, but I'd love to have you back sometime if you're game. I mean, we haven't covered Hearthstone on our video games podcast. We could do that.
Oh, well, anytime. That's one thing I will say. I know way too much about the history of video games and all that stuff. That's kind of my go-to.
Okay, well, we have a show, One-Upsmanship, that you should definitely guest on. We'll work it out on the internet.
And honestly, if I could just say, I feel like you are the American version of us. So
great. It's delightful to hear. And well, then I'll treat you as I would have you treat me, and ask you to please plug things so that people can find them and your career can blossom into the beautiful flower it deserves to be. Each petal a $20 million franchise.
oh, me plug things. I thought you meant like, I'll tweet this
exactly.
out. Sure. What do you need?
I'll do it the way you're most comfortable with. Are there any local Toronto comedians you might be interested in following?
Oh, yeah. I think Mark Little is pretty good.
I'm going to do this for you. Picnicface sketches widely available online. Most of your stuff is hard to find online if you're not in Canada, but if you are in Canada, check out Andy's stuff through various CBC apps. Cavendish is his most recent triumph, stars and directs episodes, and otherwise you can find him at a Tim Hortons sitting for 14 hours trying to figure out what he's going to do next.
Staring off into the middle distance. Oh, and you can follow me at Andy C. Bush. I want more followers on Twitter. That's because
there you go.
There you go.
I worked in a Tim Hortons reference by the end, so all is well. Yeah. All right, dude. Well, thank you for braving the pit, and till next time.
Thank you.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.